Okay, so good day everyone. Welcome to our video tutorial, and today we will be discussing about abstraction. So just a brief introduction that abstraction is one of the four building blocks in OOP, object-oriented programming. There will be two persons that who will going to discuss abstraction. I will be the first one to discuss to you the definition and then real life example, and there will be a guy which Ian will going to discuss abstraction in a way of coding. So let's get started. So basically, what do we mean about abstraction? So when we say abstraction, it is basically a concept. Okay, what kind of concept is that? So basically, it describes something or some object in a simpler form. So basically, we don't complicate things. Okay, we come up with such a very simple yet concise way of describing things. And then in the second bullet, it showing only the essential. Okay, when we say essential, we don't need things that are useless. We only getting things that are necessary. Okay, we only getting or using things that are needed for our daily lives. If it's a real life example, features of an entity or an object. So if you're going to write a code and if there is something that is not needed in your code, then why are you putting that one in your code? So we don't need that anymore because we want simpler things as possible. So as you can see in our picture here, in our illustration, that it says if we're going to pour essentials and non-essential details, it will going to filter out. And then by filtering out, the things that will only come out is that essential details, nothing else, because non-essential details will going to be ignored or removed. Okay, how does it work? Okay, how does it work? How does abstraction work? So for instance, in our definition, it says abstract ideas are at top of the hierarchy and more concrete ideas are at the bottom. Okay, so as you can see here in our illustration, that this is basically what does the first bullet trying to say, that there is an animal here. Now animal is very general. Okay, it's very generic. How are we going to emphasize that? Because there are a lot of animals. Okay, there are a lot of characteristics of animal. We say that in giraffe, dog, or whatever. So for more complex, for have to dig in a concrete ideas, bottoms concrete ideas will be at the bottom. So just like that. Okay, because animals very generic, we can say animals a lot. Okay, so we say dog. Okay, so that gives an idea that, okay, an animal and then a dog, or let's say an animal and then a cat. And in the second bullet, it says when there will be multiple layers in hierarchy, at the bottom most layer will have most details, while the topmost layer will have the most abstract. So if we're going to dig in more and to chop or what do you call that, give more emphasis of the dog, then it will be more complex because we are now seeing details that we haven't seen before. Okay, so if we were going to code that one, well, I will not be the one who will going to code it, because Mary will going to execute and give you more emphasis on what will be the rule of inheritance that will be applied inside of a code. Bye!
So right now, I'm going to be showing you a sample code for abstraction. So what you want to do is you want to create a new Java project and call it whatever you want. And under the source folder, we'll create a new class. For this one, I'll call it games. So since we're dealing with abstract classes, we're gonna change this to abstract. And under it, so we created abstract class games. So we have our abstract class games here, and we have our public class abstract here, which will be our main method. So back on our abstract class, you want to create a method for games. So we want to create public void start. We're going to print out game started. So under our abstract class, we have a method called game start, and under it, game started. And under our main method, we're going to instantiate games class. And we're going to call it. So if we try to run this, we have an error here, and it says that it cannot instantiate the type games. And this is because we cannot instantiate abstract classes, or we cannot create objects out of them, because abstract classes are supposed to help other classes implement their own methods. So if we actually get rid of abstract and run it, it will say game started. Since we cannot use abstract classes to instantiate or create an object with, we can create a class that extends games. So we'll make a class that is a type of game. So PUBG extends games. So whatever methods in class games will be run by PUBG. And over here, we just have to change it, PUBG to P. And lastly, change this one to B. So now, if we run the code, it will say game has started, meaning our methods that we use in games has worked with the extension from PUBG. So now we will talk about abstract methods. So I will create a new abstract method. So public abstract void queue. Now, as you can see, we have a new method, but there is no code inside this method. And what we have to do is we have to implement the method inside this class and put code inside this method. Since PUBG already knows what to do with this method since it extends games. So we have to create public void queue, and we're going to print out you have queued for the game. Then we'll put it here, p.queue, and now when we run it, it says you have queued for the game. Now we can just also remove this and it will run the same way. You have queued for the game. So what is the point of abstract methods? Abstract methods are here to help in organizing your code. So once you have an abstract class called games, you would want to know what your game will do. You have a start, you'll have a queue, and you can put any other methods that will help you create your game. So a game will have their friends list. So you can have your friends list. So put friends. You can also have your statistics in your games, how much you've played, your scores, and stuff like that. So in a way, it helps you figure out what kind of methods your games would need, and that way you can just implement it in a different class when you need to, and therefore you won't be confused about what other methods that you need to remember, as you've already listed them in the abstract class and you made your abstract methods. So that's the end of the Java abstraction tutorial. I hope you all learned something today, and peace.